And then I would like to officially introduce you to our next presenter, Misty Sanders. She's been an educator for 24 years. She's at Longest Elementary. She's also a deeper learning coach within her building. She has taught kindergarten through third grade education technology. She does have a rank one status, but is also currently working on certification for instructional supervision. So, Misty, we're definitely glad to have you here, and she will be sharing with us to infinity and beyond with MTSS blended learning. Misty, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for letting me share. Like you said, I do teach third grade, and this year I have um, added in to my MTSS time some blended learning that I've learned more things about in deeper learning and being a digital learning coach for my school. So I'm going to share my screen with you. Maybe it's not gonna let me. All right, here we well. Sorry, it's not being my friend right now. Here we go. All right, so like he said, I am going to talk to you today about how to use blended learning in MTSS. If I go too fast or if you have any questions, please drop it in the chat or stop me at any time. Can you all see my screen? Okay, good. All right, I am going to do this. All right, so I'm not going to read that again to you. That's a little bit about me. Okay, so blended learning is it's not new, but it is a new term we're hearing a lot about right now in education, and it's just about combining those whole group discussions with small group discussions, using more digital learning tools, and it integrates benefits for in-person teaching and creating more flexibility and personalized learning for the student. Here are some benefits to or advantages of blended learning. The students have more control over their own learning pace and style. It promotes interaction among students, between teachers and students, and it helps with the community within your classroom. It also provides opportunities for individualized instruction, so you can focus on those learning paths using either digital tools or working one-on-one with a teacher or an instructional monitor who may be in there to assist you. And also another thing I like about blended learning is they can go at their own pace. And you'll see on a few slides later how that works and how I'm just kind of I sit back and it has lots of student voice in it. All right, so a big thing right now is stations versus studios. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. And I have learned this year, especially, it really depends on what group of kids you have, if you can do the stations or if you can do studios. Studios, well, no, yeah, stations, I'm sorry. Stations, are just like learning centers and they rotate from thing to thing, from station to station when the timer goes off. And each station is focused, has a specific focus for the student. It is active learning, it's collaboration, it's differentiated, and it does allow them to engage with multiple learning tasks. If you do studios, it's where the kids or the students, I should say. The students have a designated space where you engage in creative multimedia projects. Usually it has, there is no time. There's not a timer for them to go to each little station. What I do is I say at 9 o'clock, you have to be finished. So that also, it teaches the kids to be, it teaches them times management, and it makes them in charge of their own learning. With the blended learning models, typically students engage in a combination of classroom-based activities and online learning at their own pace. This can depend on specific implementation, but it often involves a mix of whole group instruction from the previous day, independent work, and group work, as well as online assignments, multimedia resources, and interactive exercises. One of the groups that I have is a small group. That's the group that usually works with me. During MTSS time, I have 4 math students that I have to pull, and then I have 5 reading students that I pull. And so in this station, in our district, we use iReady, and one day of the week, I may pull the small group and focus on what skill they're lacking in the iReady reading or the math. Usually I do math or reading on Monday, Wednesday, and math on Tuesday, Thursday. And sometimes I do both. It just depends on the lesson and how quick they catch on. Normally it says a group of 3 to 6. Normally I have about 3 kids in a group. Sometimes I work one-on-one with just the MTSS kids. And then on one of the other days, on Wednesdays, I meet with every single student for about a minute to 2 minutes. Just a quick conversation about what's going on in their week, something that I've noticed they need to work on. But I do have, it's not a set, like they never come back to me at the same time with the same kids. In the independent station or studio, the students practice reading, maybe applying a standard that's taught in small group. This is also where a lot of times I will pull in the grammar focus for the week, the vocabulary for the week, some activities in this. And most of the time it's stuff that can be quickly just checked, and I don't have to grade and grade and grade. A lot of times my 3rd graders like to grade their own work, so I may put a key somewhere in the room, and then they go over and they can check their own work, or a friend can check it because they like to use my ink pens, my Flair pens. The digital station is probably my favorite. They obviously, during the digital time, they do iReady lessons, but when they pass the lesson, they normally have other things, whether it be Google Classroom assignments or links of things to work on. And then another one of my most favorite is Future Self. This is where the students work with partners or groups to showcase their thoughts or ideas. This is where we pull in a lot of our science and social studies standards. This station is hardest to plan for, I will be honest with you. But as you'll see, I have lots of resources that I pull from for this, and I'm going to explain how this looks and how I plan for it. One thing, and I mentioned this earlier, between the stations and the studios, it depends on really the maturity of your group. Last year, my last year's group, by this time, they were doing studios full force. My group this year, they're a little bit tougher, and they're still at stations at this moment. Our goal was this week, we were going to be transitioning into studios, but of course we've had NTI days. So we didn't get to do that. Because in the studios, they just go at their own pace. It may look like chaos to some. That's one thing I had to let go of, because I like the structure and I like knowing that everybody's, getting what they're supposed to be done on time. I had to pull back from that with studios. And it's a good learning lesson when they don't finish. They think, oh, I have to do this part before I can go on to the next part. So it's a good teaching tool as well as other benefits. In this, I'm going to come back to that, but in the beginning, I did, this is what a day may look like. The future self on this one, oh, well, sorry, it's loading. The future self on this one may be just an epic book about castles. Let's just say an epic book on castles they have to read. The way I assign those is the ones who need assistance, I will assign those kids a book that they can listen to. The kids who don't, they have a reading passage and a quiz to take on epic. And then on this one, this is where I tie in lots of my technology. Like on the first day, they watched a video on castles, and then they had to go to the Padlet link and just put 3 facts they learned that day about a castle. 3, it could be interesting facts, it could be like informational facts. It's whatever they would like for us as a classroom to look back on. Now well, later in the year, they look like this. This is when I transfer into studios. I add an actual 5th station in called exploration. And I do that because I'm able to take myself out of the small group, and they work on these 5 things, and I'm still pulling those small groups. But I take in the studio time, you don't really have a teacher-led group. I pull just who I need to pull from. This was, and here again, this is where I pull in a lot of science, a lot of social studies activities. This is actually one that we're going to start working on in a few weeks, about the Titanic. And that ties in lots of science, lots of social studies for them. And then, I always remind them to manage their time wisely, do their neatest work. And then some students, especially some of my GT kids, they will finish way before the time to be done for the morning is. Normally our time is 7:50 to around 8:50. Yeah, about 8. We try to work an hour, sometimes long, sometimes a lot less than that. It just depends on how our day goes. My GT kids especially like choice boards, and my computer is glitching. And you all know what a choice board is. In my classroom, I have I call generic class choice boards. I have an ELA one. I have one that focuses just on vocabulary words. I have one that focuses just on math, and it can be any math related. Right now, our big focus is on multiplication and division, so that's what I tend to push them toward, but they can do addition facts, subtraction facts, whatever they want to do. But I also have each one of my students have an individual choice board. Here is the example. I put 4 things that have to be on there, which is reading a book, going on Epic, reading and taking quizzes, flashcards for math, and then I have some number searches where they have to find the problem and the answer. And then once they get through so many sets, they make their own to give a classmate. So this is just an example. And then I let them come up with 4 activities. Now, I do have to give guidelines because they're 3rd graders. And so, because every one of them would put YouTube or, something crazy. So I give them choices about what to put and what not to put. A big thing with my 3rd graders right now is the game 24. A lot of them like to figure out those math problems. So this little guy may choose 24. Mary may not. Mary may choose to do pixel art on Google Classroom, and that's just working on fluency facts. Another thing that I do to get my ideas from is I have actually a colleague of mine. We made this together, and it's just random things we can do and pull in to make to have more technology within our groups, to have more group work. So these are just, and we have checkpoints, about halfway through, I may say, you should have at least 2 of the 5 activities finished. You can also do these daily. You can do them weekly. One of my 4th grade colleagues does weekly. She teaches science. And so she does a weekly MTSS thing where they know what they're going to work on and with blended learning all week long. Mine does look a little different because I do teach 3rd grade, and 3rd grade is a little not as advanced as 4th grade yet. They're getting there, but it works. My kids love it. When you come into my room, you may see me. I'm usually at a back table, or I may be at a student desk beside someone. I'm working one-on-one. Some kids may be working on their at Thanksgiving, we did a thing with a turkey trap. Some kids are working on typing their facts. Some kids are already planning with their group how to build something. Some kids may just still be working on the reading the book and getting familiar with the book. I do pull in lots of literacy, nonfiction and fiction, both, usually whatever unit we're working on. We just started working on an ocean reading unit. And next week, we're actually going to start a writing part with the blended learning. They're going to get to write an informational piece on their choice. That's what I really like about blended learning, because it's lots of student voice, lots of student choice. Blended Learning Studios, Marcia Keish has great ideas on her website. I've used a lot of a lot of things from her. And then Holly Clark is another person that I really like. The Chromebook infused classroom is really good. She has one now that's geared toward the AI push that's going on. If you download her book on Kindle with your Kindle app, she actually has video links inside that you can actually watch her do these type of things, like the stations, the 4 main groups she talks about. That's how she has videos that you can actually watch. So I would recommend you, if you want to try some of this stuff, I recommend you get her book. It's a really great resource. I feel like I have just rambled, that I really haven't done justice. Does anybody have any questions? I can't see. I don't think so. All right. Well, if you have any questions or any comments on what I can do different or on how I do certain things, feel free to contact me. Like I said, it's MTSS is a big push in our building right now. We have a whole block of time for that. Our tier 3 kids are pulled out. We service our own tier 2 kids. And so that this blended learning is a great way to get those kids serviced and to push those other students who need that push. Maybe your GT kids, maybe your middle of the road students. Because I just mix them all together. They get to choose what they do. You know, it might be my GT kid, maybe working with one of my tier 2 kids or a tier 3 kid that hasn't left the room to work with his resource yet. So it blends it all in. They're all learning the same concept. They're all just on their own path. And it does, I'll be honest, it looks a little chaotic when you come in my room because it's loud, it's not quiet. You know, people are busy, people are moving. We have desks pushed out to the side sometimes. We're sitting in the floors. It just, whatever gets it done, we get it done. So, and like I said, I did have to pull back a lot from having that structure because I just had to let go of it. And I did, and it's working fine. And like I said, it really depends on the group of students you have. Like I said, this year's group, they just can't handle the independent part of it yet. They kind of have to have a little bit more guidance than my kids last year had to have. But I'm open for questions. If you have any questions, just let me know.
Misty, thank you. And as she said, if you got any questions, feel free to dump them in the chat. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording moving forward.